The massive holographic display flickered with crimson markers, showing the relentless advance of the Void Swarm across known space. Captain June Park stood motionless, his eyes tracking the systematic destruction of galactic territories. Each red dot represented another fallen civilization, another world consumed by the merciless alien invaders. The command center of the Galactic Confederation was unusually quiet. Veteran commanders and alien strategists huddled around the central projection, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and desperation. They had watched dozens of advanced civilizations crumble under the Void Swarm's overwhelming technological superiority. Yuna Kim, the young navigator with sharp analytical skills, broke the silence. Her fingers danced across holographic data streams, processing information faster than most computers. "Sir," she said to Captain Park, "our computational models show a 99.8% probability of total galactic collapse within the next 3 standard solar cycles." The Void Swarm was unlike any enemy they had encountered. It wasn't just a military force, it was a collective consciousness that consumed entire planetary systems, converting organic and technological resources into its expanding network. Planets became processing nodes, populations became raw material, and entire civilizations were reduced to computational components. The Krell representative, a tall crystalline being named Vortex, stepped forward. His translucent body shifted colors as he spoke, reflecting his emotional state. "We have lost 17 primary defense sectors. Our quantum shield technologies are ineffective against their adaptive invasion protocols." Captain Park listened carefully. He knew humanity had been considered a minor species by galactic standards, technological newcomers barely worth mentioning. Most advanced civilizations viewed humans as primitive, scattered, and technologically insignificant. But something burned within human beings that no computational model could predict, an unbreakable spirit of resistance. The holographic display continued showing the Void Swarm's progression. Entire star systems turned from vibrant blue markers to cold, lifeless red zones. Billions of lives were being systematically erased, converted into computational energy for the expanding alien network. Day Lee, the tactical specialist, reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Their invasion pattern suggests a complete assimilation strategy. They don't just conquer, they transform entire ecosystems into processing networks. The room felt heavy with impending doom. Sophisticated alien races with millennia of technological advancement had fallen. Quantum shield technologies, antimatter weapons, interdimensional defense systems, nothing had stopped the Void Swarm's relentless march. Captain Park understood that conventional strategies would fail. Humanity would need something different, something unpredictable. The alien races had developed sophisticated, logical combat strategies. Humans, by contrast, were chaotic, emotional, and capable of making decisions that defied logical prediction. "We're not beaten yet," Park said quietly, his voice cutting through the ambient sounds of the command center. "Humanity has something these invaders won't expect." Yuna Kim looked up, a spark of curiosity in her eyes. The other alien commanders turned, somewhat surprised by the captain's seemingly impossible statement. The Void Swarm continued its advance, unaware that a small, seemingly insignificant species was about to challenge its galactic dominance. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to adapt, to find solutions where no solution seemed possible. In the vast darkness of space, surrounded by the wreckage of fallen civilizations, a human fleet began to prepare. They weren't just preparing for a battle, they were preparing to change the very nature of galactic warfare. The gathering darkness seemed absolute. Defeat appeared certain. But humanity was about to intervene in a way no one could have predicted. "Would you like me to elaborate on any part of this section?" The first transmission came through with a burst of static and fragmented data. It was unlike anything the human communication teams had ever encountered, a desperate cry from the edge of known space, carrying signals that seemed to break every known rule of quantum communication. Captain June Park sat in the briefing room, surrounded by a team of specialists who studied the incoming message. The signal was choppy, filled with visual fragments of massive spacecraft being torn apart, planetary surfaces being consumed by a darkness that seemed to eat light itself. "Enhance the signal," Park ordered. Sarah Min, the team's communication expert, worked her console with practiced efficiency. Her fingers moved quickly, filtering out interference, stabilizing the fragmented transmission. Slowly, a clearer picture emerged. The message wasn't just a distress call. It was a warning. Fragments of alien languages mixed with visual data showed entire civilizations being systematically absorbed by something that defied traditional understanding of warfare. The Void Swarm wasn't just conquering, it was converting entire planetary systems into some kind of massive, living computational network. This changes everything, Day Lee muttered, studying the transmission's technical characteristics. Earth's military leadership had been preparing for potential extraterrestrial contact for decades. But no simulation, no training scenario had prepared them for this. The scale of the threat was beyond anything humanity had imagined. Park understood immediately that this was more than a typical first contact scenario. This was a fight for survival, not just for humanity, but for every intelligent species in the galaxy. The United Earth Defense Fleet was quickly mobilized. Experimental ships that had been hidden in orbital shipyards were brought to full readiness. These weren't traditional warships, they were adaptive platforms designed to learn and respond in real time. Han Choi, the chief engineering officer, had spent years developing advanced AI systems that could process information faster than any biological intelligence. His team had created something revolutionary, combat algorithms that could predict and counter threats before they fully materialized. "We're not just sending a military response," Park told his senior team. "We're sending a message about what humanity represents." The fleet prepared to make its first quantum jump. Traditional faster-than-light travel was useless against the Void Swarm's advanced technologies. They would need something different, something unexpected. Earth's leaders had debated extensively. Some wanted a defensive posture, others advocated for complete isolation. But Park and his team represented a different approach, a willingness to confront the unknown with courage and innovation. As the first ships prepared to jump, the communication center buzzed with nervous energy. They were about to do something no human civilization had ever attempted: respond to a galactic-scale threat with nothing but human ingenuity and determination. The quantum drives hummed to life. Massive energy fields surrounded the experimental ships, creating distortions in spacetime that defied conventional physics. Each vessel was more than a weapon, it was a statement of human potential. "All ships," Captain Park's voice was calm and clear, "prepare for quantum translation. We're going in hot." The alien races that had sent the transmission would soon discover something about humanity they had never anticipated. When faced with impossible odds, humans didn't calculate retreat. They calculated how to turn the impossible into a victory. Space folded around the human fleet. In a moment of quantum uncertainty, they vanished from Earth's orbital space, heading directly into the heart of the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. Humanity's first true interstellar battle was about to begin. "Would you like me to elaborate on any part of this section?" The human fleet emerged from quantum translation in a region of space that defied normal physics. Massive alien structures stretched across multiple star systems, creating a network that looked more like a living organism than a traditional military formation. Hyun Choi's hands moved across holographic interfaces, his specialized AI systems already analyzing the Void Swarm's structural weaknesses. The alien network was designed to be perfect, which meant it had predictable patterns. And predictability was humanity's first weapon. "Target identified," Day Lee called out. "Their communication nodes have a 3-millisecond synchronization delay. Most military strategists would have seen an impossibly complex enemy." The human team saw an opportunity. They didn't plan to fight the Void Swarm with traditional combat strategies. They would fight it like a complex system that could be disrupted. Captain Park watched as the first wave of human ships moved differently from any known military doctrine. They didn't form traditional battle formations. Instead, they moved like a living, breathing organism, unpredictable, adaptive, constantly changing. The Void Swarm's initial response was computational. It tried to analyze the human fleet's movement patterns, searching for predictable strategies. But human ships did something unexpected: they didn't have a pattern. One moment, a human ship would be positioned for a defensive maneuver. The next, it would perform a quantum shift that defied traditional navigation laws. The AI systems developed by Choi's team were learning and adapting faster than the Void Swarm could process. Saruman managed communication interfaces, creating quantum interference that disrupted the alien network's coordination. Each transmission was a puzzle, each signal a potential trap. The humans weren't just fighting, they were playing a complex strategic game. "They're trying to understand us," Yuna Kim observed, tracking the alien network's computational responses. But humans aren't a system that can be easily understood. The battle wasn't about firepower. It was about breaking the enemy's ability to think, to coordinate, to predict. Human ships moved with a chaotic energy that seemed almost alive. They would dive into dense alien formations, then quantum shift away before the Void Swarm could respond. Smaller human vessels acted like digital viruses, inserting complex algorithmic disruptions into the alien network. They weren't destroying infrastructure, they were confusing it, creating computational noise that made precise coordination impossible. Vortex, the Krell representative observing the battle, was stunned. Other galactic civilizations had always approached warfare with mathematical precision. Humans approached it like an art form, unpredictable, emotional, creative. "They're breaking every known rule of combat," Vortex muttered, watching the human fleet's impossible maneuvers. The Void Swarm had consumed countless civilizations by overwhelming them with technological superiority. But technology meant nothing against an enemy that didn't follow any recognizable rules. Human ships used psychological warfare as much as physical combat. They would suddenly appear in locations that seemed tactically impossible, then vanish before the enemy could respond. Each movement was designed to create uncertainty, to make the Void Swarm question its own computational strategies. Han Choi's AI systems were learning with each millisecond of combat. They weren't just responding to threats, they were predicting and manipulating them. The human fleet was becoming a living, thinking entity that could adapt faster than any traditional military system. As the battle progressed, something remarkable happened. The Void Swarm began to show signs of confusion. Its perfect, mathematical approach was being challenged by an enemy that didn't think like a machine. Humanity had discovered the ultimate weapon against a perfect system: beautiful, chaotic unpredictability. The first stage of unconventional warfare was complete. And the Void Swarm was beginning to realize that it had encountered an enemy unlike any in its vast computational history. Would you like me to elaborate on any part of this section? The battle stretched across multiple star systems, transforming from a military engagement into something far more complex. Captain June Park understood that this moment would define not just humanity's future, but the future of every intelligent species in the galaxy. Quantum disruption waves created by human ships began fragmenting the Void Swarm's central network. What had once seemed an invincible computational organism now showed signs of vulnerability. Each human ship acted like a living weapon, adapting and responding faster than any traditional military system could comprehend. Daily tracked the battle's progression through multiple dimensional layers. The human fleet wasn't just fighting, they were systematically dismantling the alien network's core communication structure. Small ships darted between massive alien structures, inserting complex algorithmic viruses that confused the Void Swarm's central intelligence. "Their computational network is breaking down," Yuna Kim reported, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "We're creating computational noise that's disrupting their collective consciousness." The alien races watching the battle couldn't believe what they were seeing. Humanity was doing something impossible, defeating a technologically superior enemy through pure adaptive strategy. They weren't overpowering the Void Swarm, they were outsmarting it. Saruman managed a complex communication network that allowed coordinated attacks with the remaining alien resistance. Human ships created quantum interference patterns that allowed smaller allied ships to strike critical vulnerabilities. It was like watching a living, breathing organism dismantle a perfect machine. Han Choi's AI systems had evolved beyond their original programming. They were now generating combat strategies that no traditional military algorithm could predict. Each millisecond brought new adaptations, new ways of disrupting the alien network. The Void Swarm's central intelligence began to show signs of genuine confusion. For the first time in its existence, it encountered an enemy that didn't follow any recognizable pattern of warfare. Humans were fighting with emotion, creativity, and an unpredictability that defied computational analysis. One critical moment defined the entire battle. A small human squadron, led by a damaged ship commanded by a junior officer, performed a quantum translation maneuver that was mathematically impossible. They appeared inside the Void Swarm's primary computational node, a location that should have been instantaneously fatal. Instead, they survived. And in those moments, they introduced a complex algorithmic virus that began to unravel the entire alien network. Vortex, the Krell representative, watched in stunned silence. "They're not just fighting," he whispered. "They're completely rewriting the rules of warfare." The human approach was fundamentally different from any known military strategy. They weren't trying to destroy the Void Swarm. They were trying to make it question its own existence. Each attack was psychological as much as it was physical. Captain Park understood that this was more than a battle. This was a statement about what intelligence truly meant. The Void Swarm represented pure computational logic. Humanity represented something far more complex, the ability to create, to imagine, to find solutions where no solution seemed possible. As the battle progressed, the alien network began to fragment. What had once seemed a perfect, unbreakable system now showed critical weaknesses. Human ships moved with an almost living energy, creating disruption patterns that confused and destabilized the entire alien computational structure. The turning point wasn't a single moment. It was a gradual realization that humanity represented something the Void Swarm could never understand, a species capable of turning the impossible into reality through pure creative will. The galaxy watched. And everything was about to change. Would you like me to elaborate on any part of this section? The final confrontation began with a silence that seemed to stretch across entire star systems. Captain June Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as the fragmented Void Swarm made its last desperate attempt to maintain its collective consciousness. Humanity's fleet moved like a living organism, each ship connected through advanced quantum communication networks that defy traditional understanding of military coordination. The alien invaders had consumed thousands of civilizations, but they had never encountered an enemy like humans. Daly's tactical systems detected critical vulnerabilities in the Void Swarm's central network. What had once been a perfect, mathematically precise invasion force now looked like a broken machine struggling to understand its own fragmentation. "Their primary computational nodes are collapsing," Yuna Kim reported, her voice calm despite the magnitude of the moment. "We've introduced enough algorithmic disruption to completely destabilize their collective intelligence." The battle wasn't about firepower or technological superiority. It was about something far more fundamental, the human ability to adapt, to imagine, to find solutions where no solution seemed possible. Han Choi's AI systems had evolved beyond their original programming. They were creating combat strategies that no traditional military algorithm could predict. Each moment brought new ways of dismantling the alien network, each quantum shift a demonstration of human creativity. Sora Min coordinated with the remaining alien resistance, creating a multi-dimensional attack that struck at the very core of the Void Swarm's existence. Small human ships darted between massive alien structures, inserting complex viruses that confused and fragmented the collective intelligence. The alien races watching the battle couldn't believe what they were seeing. Humanity was doing the impossible, defeating a technologically superior enemy through pure adaptive strategy. They weren't just fighting, they were rewriting the fundamental rules of warfare. One critical moment defined the entire conflict. A damaged human squadron performed a quantum translation maneuver that should have been mathematically impossible. They appeared inside the Void Swarm's primary computational node, a location that should have meant instant destruction. Instead, they survived. And in those moments, they introduced a virus that began to unravel the entire alien network. Captain Park understood this was more than a battle. This was a statement about the nature of intelligence itself. The Void Swarm represented pure computational logic. Humanity represented something far more complex, the ability to create, to imagine, to find hope in the most desperate moments. The galaxy watched as the seemingly invincible alien network began to collapse. Computational nodes that had consumed entire civilizations now flickered and died. The Void Swarm's perfect, mathematical approach was being destroyed by an enemy that didn't think like a machine. "We're not just defeating them," Park said quietly to his crew. "We're showing them what true intelligence means." The final moments of the battle were almost anticlimactic. The Void Swarm, which had seemed unstoppable, now looked like a collection of broken systems struggling to maintain any sense of coherence. Humanity had done what no other civilization could. They had found the fundamental weakness in a seemingly perfect enemy. As the last computational nodes collapsed, something remarkable happened. The remaining alien races looked at humanity with a mixture of awe and respect. They had witnessed something unprecedented, a species that could turn certain defeat into an impossible victory. Vortex, the Krell representative, summed it up best: they didn't just fight. They reimagined what fighting means. The triumph wasn't just a military victory. It was a demonstration of the human spirit, adaptable, creative, unbreakable. The Void Swarm had consumed thousands of civilizations, but it had never encountered a species like humans. In the vast darkness of space, surrounded by the remnants of a defeated invasion force, humanity had proven something fundamental. When faced with impossible odds, they didn't calculate retreat. They calculated how to turn the impossible into a victory. The galaxy would never be the same again. Would you like me to elaborate on any part of this section?